Are we there? Xander, do you see it?
I see it and I'm waiting for the audio.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Are we there? Xander, do you see it? Okay.
I see it and I'm waiting for the audio.
Okay, thanks, Terry. All right, I'm gonna go there and record. Xander, do you see it? Goodness, well, what is that? Okay.
I see it and I'm waiting for the audio.
Okay, thanks, Terry. All right, I'm gonna go there and record. Xander, do you see it? Goodness, well, what is that? Okay.
I see it and I'm waiting for the audio.
Okay, thanks, Terry. All right, I'm gonna go there. I don't know what to do.
I closed out of my YouTube. It's not even open.
I see it and I'm waiting for the audio. Okay, thanks, Terry. Let me, it's me. I don't know what to do.
I closed.
It was me. We're doing great, everybody. Thanks, Terry. Jesus. All right, let me record and then let me get folks in here. Oh, we're killing it. Terry, I may need your support on the, I don't know where, I'm not seeing the recording option. And I know it's just because I'm frazzled.
Yeah, I've
Nicole, in more, did you see the 3 horizontal dots?
Yeah.
And then record at the top?
I told you it's just because I was frazzled.
There are too many buttons.
Lord. All right.
I can start. Should I start admitting folks? Okay.
don't forget to record.
Thanks, Terry. Good evening, everyone. We're just going to give folks a few minutes to get in, and then we will let Adrielle, our presiding officer, get us started tonight. I feel like next month we should have some elevator music. I will work on that. A little Jeopardy music, little elevator pitch.
Yes, a nice intro would be great.
Right? We're just happy to be recording tonight. So we'll wait till the March 31st meeting for that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're going to just give folks a few more minutes to get in and get settled. And our presiding officer will officially get us started tonight.
I'm doing a count of members who are here, and I saw someone joined from iPhone. If you can let us know who you are, if you're able to come off mute.
Oh, let me, I think I have to do that. Thank you for that reminder.
It is I,
Excuse me?
Jamal.
Ah, okay. Thank you, Jamal. I'll go ahead and rename you.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Karanja. So I've just asked for you to come off mute and remember from our last conversation, these, do you see it popping up for you to come off mute? Did that work? Okay. Did you have something you wanted to share? Hey, Michelle, I got you.
Yeah, I was just wondering why we was on mute. That's all. And is our chair, is she available? Adriel, are you here?
So when
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Karanja.
Hey, did you get my email?
I didn't. When did you send it?
A while back, but I'll try to send it again.
I can search also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Adriel, when you are ready, let's go ahead and get us officially in our meeting tonight. I'm giving you permission to come off mute.
I was talking that whole time.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so
Greetings.
sorry.
It's okay. And salutations. I'm happy to be here and I'm pleased to be able to support you all. This is our March 4th CBRC meeting, and I think that is my official warm welcome. And I will hand it off to you, Nicole.
Awesome. Are you all able to see the screen that we're sharing? You to see the agenda up? Awesome, awesome. So tonight, I just want to follow in the steps of our presiding officer by welcoming you here. I want to just briefly orient you all in our agenda for this evening. We're going to go over a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to go briefly over our PPS equity framework that guides our decision making. We're going to talk a little bit about CBRC, which is this body, and our leadership selection. As that is something that, as you know, we have a vice chair, as Adriel was our vice chair last year. We want to have a conversation about our charter and how, what options you all would like as we select our leadership team for this year. Then our finance team is going to share some information through a budget hold'em preview, which there's a hyperlink in the documents that you received via PDF later or earlier this afternoon. And then we're going to go through our budget update. And then we're going to review the process for questions and answers and how you submit those and where we're keeping and tracking those for the body tonight. For our housekeeping, we just wanted to make sure that one of the things that we talked a little bit about last month in February was how do we ask questions, not just in this space, but also when we're in our leisure time and things come up. So there's a question intake form that you have access to that will be open. throughout this process, and you are more than welcome to submit any and all questions through the intake form. And then when you need to access whether and track whether or not those questions have been answered, there is a Q&A spreadsheet that you'll have access to, which will track all of the questions that you all are bringing forward and the answers that we are providing. Any committee materials that you need will be available on our CBRC website, which you have the hyperlink for. And then likewise, if there's any logistical support, whom we affectionately call Ms. Cheryl, Ms. Cheryl Pittman is our logistical support, and her email information is provided, and you are more than welcome at any time to send her an email and request any logistical support that you may need. As far, I want to kind of pass it over to our finance team to go over a bit of the committee schedule that you all can expect for the rest of the year.
Hi, everybody. Tammy Booth, Budget Director. I just want to make sure that we're sharing the meeting schedule ahead of time with you. This should look very familiar from the last meeting as far as the timing of the engagements and the deliverables. One thing I just want to call out or highlight is the upcoming board engagement. And you'll hear more about that again at the end of this meeting, that we have an intentional work session set up with CBRC and our board to have a discussion around our budget and priorities. And so that's coming up March 31st, and you will have both the virtual and in-person option. So if you're interested in coming in person, we will be sure to have space for you. And kind of one of the asks that we'll have as we move through this and maybe towards the end is going to be, if there is interest in person, we want to make sure we reserve the right amount of space for you. So there'll be an ask at the end to share that, and that can be shared with Cheryl both virtually or like through email, or if you want to call that out in the meeting as well. Either way. I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you so much for that. So we have an equity lens, and I am just going to lightly gloss over what our commitments are to how we're being transparent and student-centered in all of the decisions that we're making. And so part of one of the ways that we do that are we ask ourselves two key questions in every decision that we make. And that is, who is the most impacted, and does this recommendation reduce disparities? And so as you all are going to be walking through your CBRC leadership selection conversation and preparing for the report that you're going to put together as a body, we just wanted to make sure that you have a bit of a lead in into how we are trying to be really critical with the decisions that we're making and who is most impacted, and how can we make sure that the decisions that we are making considers those who are most impacted, and what recommendations we are offering should reduce those disparities. And as we face really difficult discussions and decisions this year, it really is critical that we name this. I'm also monitoring that the waiting room is all. So we want to make sure that we hear from communities to inform our planning and future decisions, and want to make sure that we have access to our equity lens as you all get started. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about CBRC leadership and kind of walking us through some slides that you've already seen before, but there's a decision that you all will need to make tonight. So in our practice, as is our charter, selecting our CBRC leadership can consist of a couple of different things. But first, just recognizing that this is a slide you've seen before, what our why is, what our strategic framing is around our district's continuous improvement plan, our board goals, 3rd grade reading, math grade, 5th grade math, 8th grade readiness, high school graduation, and literacy and math attendance and 9th grade success are our board goals for this year. And so just recognizing that leads into our mission and our structure as a charter. And so the link to the charter is included on the deck of information that you've received. So please, if you have not had a chance to read that, please give that a thorough read, because it will kind of explain a little bit about how we come to the choice of your structure. And so we want to just orient a bit on some committee, our meeting and committee norms or our agreements. And so I'm going to read a little bit of these, but just our board advisory body, the key guidance of that is we recognize that district employees and community members bring a real specialized knowledge and expertise to the budgetary review process. The board instructs all CBRC members to employ discretion, avoid conflicts of interest and your appearance, exercise care in performing their duties, and avoid making recommendations from which they may personally benefit. Again, you've seen these slides before, but now we're at a place where you are going to be putting together a report and deciding around your leadership structure as a committee. And we just want to make sure that you have access again to the role of who you are as the board, who the board is. And our liaison here tonight and throughout this year is Patty Sullivan. The Director Sullivan will be here and will be guiding some of those pieces. The CBRC leaders are you. And so that piece means that you shall elect a chairperson known as a presiding officer or co-chairpersons. You have a vice chair you may elect. The vice chair position is created to chair meetings in the absence of a presiding officer. So you kind of have some decisions to make tonight about that structure. And we just wanted to make sure that you saw what the board's role in your structure is, what your role is as leaders, and then what the role of PPS staff is in this space. I want to just pause for a moment. And you have reaction. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand and we'll get you off mute to ask any of your questions. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's go through a little bit about what duties and structures you have before you tonight, because before we're done, we're gonna need to kind of decide on some things, whether we're voting tonight to elect our leadership structure. Coming to you, Karanja. Or whether we wait until our March 31st meeting. Karanja, you have a question?
Yeah, I was trying to ask a question, but on the reaction, it doesn't have where you can raise your hand. And is that just me, or I'm clicking reaction, but I don't see the hand raised? Oh, I see it now.
Got it. Okay, I'm so glad because I would not know how to fix it if you didn't. So I'm so glad.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
question was, if you go back to the mission part,
Yeah.
it's a key word in that mission that oftentimes we don't really get a chance to do.
Okay.
It says to review and evaluate to make recommendations. Oftentimes we're doing a lot of reviewing. Will we have enough time to actually evaluate something this year?
I'll give our finance team an opportunity to pop in.
Yeah,
Karanja, when you say evaluate, what would that look like?
Just what the mission states. I don't know. You guys wrote the mission. What does
Okay.
that mean to you guys all to evaluate? To evaluate to me, I mean, it's to analyze like a program, look at the budget and look at the effectiveness. Have we met the outcomes of that particular program? It's something that we need to maybe to review and observe and maybe look at a different program. That to me is evaluate. And I feel like we're going to be making some very difficult decisions. And I think it's important for us to be able to evaluate this year to really analyze and really get a proper review and recommendation. So I was just wondering, will we be able to get that opportunity this year?
I'm going to tee it off to our chief financial officer, because I think part of where evaluate might feel a little limiting is that I'm not sure in this space would be necessarily looking at programs specifically, or if there's a little bit more broader part of what that evaluation process looks like. So I definitely want to make sure that we get a chance to answer that question. And maybe that would be maybe not just Michelle, maybe that would also be somebody else on the team.
Yeah, I would definitely invite others to jump in. Michelle Morrison, Chief Financial Officer. So this this work of the committee, you guys have access to staff and are available to do questions or if information requests. So Karanja, if there's specific analysis that you need or you want data to do your own, this is the place where you submit a request for that, and then we would do our best to bring information back to you. We also have the ability to invite other district staff members who are maybe closer to that work to come and visit with the group as well. So I would say if there are things that are top of mind for you, you want to be sure and get them in the queue so that we can get some information together for you to review. And then, of course, the committee would all have to determine whether or not that was analysis or a recommendation moving forward. So I do think it's important to note that probably there has to be consensus around that first from this committee. That's why it's a full body. So that's my perspective. And I would invite Tammy or Alexander to speak more to it in terms of process.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Michelle has stated, that that access comes through this committee work to ask additional questions.
Okay.
The timeline on it from when the board engagement happens, which is kind of April 28th, to when the report is due and deliverable is a very tight timeline. And that has to do with some of our limitations for when we're able to release the proposed budget to when we need to approve the budget, or the board needs to approve the budget and then move to adoption. And that pace is very quick. And so we're hopeful that some of the questions, and there's going to be a leading question at the end of this tonight, what additional information do you need? So if you have specific things you want to dig into, I would say that let's get those aired out at the end of this, like, and this and that. And so we have a longer landing time to get information ahead of that release on the 28th, and then a deliverable that comes incredibly fast, like, just a few weeks, a week and a half, I think.
I'm seeing a good thumbs up from Karanja, which means I feel like he gets it. So at the end of this tonight, we'll make sure that that question and lead in is there, that the form is open and available for folks to be able to start seeding in some of those questions so we have the right runway. I think Aaron has a question next. Hey, Aaron.
Hi. I just wanted to, if we're going to cover this at the end, then I think this is earmarked for that. But I just wanted to put it on the agenda to talk about the format that we get the numbers in, and if we can get those numbers sooner, at least roughly, so that we can start looking at, there's no way in the way that the budget is laid out to compare apples to apples from one year to the next. And I spent hours with AI trying to pull out some of that information, and I can imagine that the financial team is not working with just a giant 300-page document all the time. Like, there are actual spreadsheets. And so, I've got some examples of what I found useful where I could see the delta between one year to the next and each line item, and it would give me a percentage and the actual amount. That would be really helpful. So that's what I would like to put up there as something that we request.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. I see our finance team nodding, so we got those notes down for your question and see what format we can get those numbers in.
There you go.
We don't want you in AI for hours and hours and hours without getting the solutions you need. Okay. All right. So let's move forward just a little bit to that other slide around the committee meeting and our agreements, and then our leadership duties and structures. So I just want to make sure that we understand what the roles are that you'll be making a decision about tonight. So tonight, one of the things we've got to decide is, are we voting tonight? Are we voting on a structure? And are we voting to elect people within the roles of that structure? Or do we want to push and wait, give ourselves some time, and have that vote in the March 31st conversation? Let me just pause because I see some wrinkled brows. And so I want to just make sure I'm explaining that correctly. So we have a couple of decisions tonight. When you look at this slide says that we have some options around what choice we make around committee structure. So we've had either a chair, we can have a chair, we can have co-chairs who split that role together. We can have a co-chair and a vice chair. We can have co-chairs and vice chairs. I know sometimes too many choices are too many choices. So essentially, the decision that you're making tonight is, are we voting tonight on a structure? And if we're voting on a structure, are we also voting on and electing the folks who are going to fill those particular roles? So currently, Adrielle is our past vice chair. So she has been moved to the presiding officer role for the moment until you all as a committee determine your structure and who's going to fill the roles of that structure. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm seeing some agreement. All right, let me tell you what the roles are so that you'll know what kind of structure you want or suggest. So staff to CBRC point of contact. The role of the chair or co-chairs, if we split that role, is really the point of contact to staff. So like what Karanja shared earlier by saying, hey, Adrielle, did you get my email? That is where the right proper streamline of communication would just continue whomever is the presiding officer or chair becomes the person that you all contact in order to get to one of the staff. You also will still have Ms. Cheryl and the logistical support, and we all are all available, but we want to just make sure that we have a streamlined form of communication for who might need what. So whoever the chair is or the presiding officer would fill that role. The presiding officer also supports facilitation. Just as you see Adriel do every session, she gets us started, she convenes our meeting, kind of helps facilitate if necessary and or needed, and then adjourns our meeting at the absolute end, and then works alongside staff to facilitate any discussions that might come up. That part is the support facilitation part. Then there is a key role that you all are responsible for at the end of our time together is by culminating a report. And the presiding officer leads the development of the CBRC local option levy and the annual budget review, assigning sections and duties as needed, because to Karanja's point, to Aaron's point, you'll want to be able to go through this report and offer evaluation and review and some synthesis. And so whomever is that presiding officer will help do that to ensure there's no stagnation and that folks get flagged and pinged and that work moves forward, so that when we're back together in community, in this body, that you all have what you need in order to be able to make your just decisions. Does that part feel okay? So the presiding officer or structure that you choose is the point of contact to staff, supports facilitation, and then organizes and leads the development of the deliverables that you all have before you as a body. And with that, you get to decide what the structure is like. If you're voting tonight on that structure, if you want some time to process it, to think it through, for us to send out a form, for us to gather how you're feeling about it, that is where we want to kind of talk tonight, to figure out what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you need, so that we can give you some time for that and then produce whatever it is that you are needing to make your decision. All right. I knew I was going to have some questions. Hi, Shane. I'm coming to you right this minute. There you go. I think. There you go.
Oh, there we go. All right. Hey, thanks. I'm just curious if we could share some info on like how it's been structured in the past, like if there's one model we typically do more than others, and if staff or other past members of the committee could talk about, if they felt like one certain structure has been better to work with or more beneficial than others.
I don't know if we have a full succinct answer there, because I'm sure whatever worked previously might have worked really, really well, and they might have had some gaps. So I think what we see is we see a couple of different options, which means we've tried a lot. But maybe Alexandra can give us a little bit of lead in on what might have worked well in the past.
Sure, I can share. In our prior year, we had a chair and a vice chair. The year before that, I believe we had two co-chairs who had shared duties. And so it seemed in prior years there was some prior deep experience that people were tapping into. And so it seemed the decision was oriented around people's prior experience. I will say the role of the chair, they're really leading the report development and the facilitation of that to create a consensus report. So that's the only other thing I would emphasize is facilitating, bringing people together so that we're hearing from all voices and reflecting those in the report. That's a big focus of the chair. And I would say that the time commitment is larger for the chair or co-chairs who are committing their time to that. But I'd love to hear from prior CBRC members who experienced this in our prior cycle.
Yeah, is there anyone that feels so inclined to share your experience? Oh, don't all speak at once or raise your hands at once. Okay, Adriel's got it. Coming to you, presiding officer, for the moment. And then, oh, Adriel, did I get you? Did you lower your hand? Okay.
It takes a while. I'm having technical issues, and so I'm on my phone.
Okay.
I would say, based on the volume of work that we've done in the past, it feels like co-chairs and a vice make sense, just because it spreads some of the workload. But that's just in my head. And so I'm obviously going to go with whatever consensus is with the group, but it feels like because there's going to be a pretty heavy lift, having more minds makes it a more doable um, process and project, especially with the newness of whoever will be the chair or the chairs in this space. So that's just my opinion and thought at the moment.
Thank you for that, Adriel. Let me go to Karanja, who also has his hand up.
There we go. I'll piggyback on that. I agree. I think the shared experience has worked the best. It's a very heavy workload. It's a lot of information to read. And I think the more people that we have working together, the better. So yeah, in my experience, I would say the co-chair and I would say even vice chair, but it says co-chairs and vice. Oh, chairs is plural, but the
Yeah,
vice
because it's
chairs.
just the option.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It was just another way we've seen it done, but we don't have to do any or all or neither. We can come up with something different. But
Yeah,
I think this
totally.
helps.
I like the model of the more heads.
Okay, the co-chair and vice chair model that
Yes.
Adriel offered.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want anything to offer? And it doesn't have to be that you have experience or this would be a good time to kind of talk it through a little bit so that we decide what decisions can we make tonight? So there's a couple of things I would love to know is one, how do you want to have this discussion? And do you want to make a decision about it tonight? Or do you want to push? Is what of those feels like the easiest, at least to be able to decide tonight? Okay, got Angela popping in. Okay, thank you, Aaron, coming to you.
I propose we vote tonight. If there are folks that are so inclined to want to take on that role, I would happily support them. I mean, I helped last year with some of the writing, but it's really too many cooks can spoil the meal. So folks that are very committed to this, we lost someone that was really took a lot of the load on. So anybody that's interested in writing the report, I would back.
That's a really delicate way you put that. Deeply appreciate that, Aaron. We're gonna come to Serena, one of our student reps.
Yeah, I just had a quick question since I'm a student member. I assume we're also non-voting members for like these decisions as well?
So I appreciate that question, Serena. I did a little bit of checking and have kind of went all the way up to our legal counsel. And at the moment, we have a particular board policy on committees that specifically prohibits students from being voting members of the committee. I'm not entirely sure if that counts for structure as well, but I will say that one of the things that I deeply appreciate about how our board manages this policy at the board level is that although Ian's Retorto's vote may not be official, it is recorded, and so it does matter, and it is counted in the space. So Serena, even though we're still working on what that policy looks like, I would say our student reps should absolutely vote if we choose to vote tonight, and that we will record those votes the same way we would at our board level and ensure that the committee recognizes what your choices are and will consider that in how decisions are made until we can figure out a better way to sustain student voices through our board policy. It would take a lot higher policy level change. And I don't know if we have the runway or the time to focus our energy in that, but that is something that we have noted and we'll make sure that we follow up on. I hope that answers your question. I know Karanja is next, but Serena, if not, please raise your hand again, sweetheart, and we'll come right back to you. Okay. Karanja, coming to you.
All right, thank you. I recommend that we vote tonight since we have such a small window of time. to really get engaged and really submit the report to the board.
Okay.
So my recommendation would that we establish leadership tonight.
Okay. Thank you for that, Karanja. And it's all right to be opposed. It is all right to chat me privately and let me know that, to email Ms. Cheryl and let her know that, to come off mute and to say that. We recognize that oftentimes being in a dissenting posture may not always feel like courage, but it is. And we welcome that courage in the space tonight so that everybody feels good about whatever decisions we make together. Okay. Anyone else have some fodder for the conversation for tonight? I want to welcome some of the folks that came in while we were in discussion and just frame you a bit. We are currently looking at our CBRC leadership and duties and structure. And what that just meant was we have a decision to make before us this evening. And part of that is recognizing what the roles are that this leadership body can create and sustain in order to get the deliverables done that you all need to present to the board. And so whoever it becomes the presiding chair or co-chairs would work together with PPS staff to set meetings and agendas and gather feedback and some suggestions from other members to engage with staff on other topics as needed. So you become a deep advocate for this body to staff. You would support facilitation, right? As we see at the beginning and top of every meeting, the presiding officer, who is currently Adriel, starts and convenes our meeting and adjourns our meeting. You would work along staff to facilitate. And if that's not your swag, that's all right. We've got a little bit for you. We can help. But we want to make sure that this feels very much like something that we do in partnership with you. And then you are going to be the lead on developing the deliverables, which is the CBRC local option levy and an annual budget review document that goes before our board. And you'll be assigning sections and making sure that evaluation is happening and that you're getting it in the format in which you have asked for it. All of those places become a place where the presiding officer and or co-chairs get to advocate for what they need. The conversation that we're having, and Angela, I'm coming to you next. The conversation we're currently having is, we have some decisions to make. First, we need to know, should we vote tonight on either a structure and or who the folks are? If we're not voting tonight, when are we voting? Would we be voting in March on the 31st meeting? And what you've been coming into, if you came in late, which is all right, to be tardy for the party, we recognize we are multiplying and doing all the things at once. So if you happen to pop in, one of the things that we have been kind of grappling with is, man, if we don't vote tonight and we wait until March 31st, what are the implications of the work that we have to do, and how can we make sure that we have enough runway to get that done? If we vote tonight and folks that really might have wanted an opportunity to vote didn't necessarily feel comfortable saying it, then we run the risk going back to that PPS equity lens of what barriers might we be creating, what disparities might we be upholding. So just asking you to keep all those things in mind, but also knowing that we're moving with a slight sense of urgency. As Karanja so eloquently put it, we need enough time to make sure that we get to the meat of what we know we're all here for. So I'm going to go to Angela to see if there is some burning question or beautiful wisdom and insight she might offer.
There we go. Hello, Angela Bonilla. Just wanting to, one, I had a couple questions because I always do, and I appreciate you answering them ahead of time in terms of what we are specifically voting for, both for the structures and for the people who will fill those roles. In my opinion, I think it's best for us to try to get those structures voted on tonight and then have folks voted in to do that. If folks are feeling like they need a little bit more time to think through who they would want to be in those positions, we could always, and correct me if I'm wrong, vote an interim chair and vice chair, or co-chairs and vice chairs that can hold that position until we meet again on March 31st. They would still hold that power, make the decisions that are all decided there, but it could be, if folks feel like they need more time to really think through who they want to lead them through this whole process, that might be one way to avoid missing out on opportunities to gather data and do work, while also giving us an opportunity to think more deeply over time. But my recommendation is that we would vote on a structure tonight, and vote on either an interim or a permanent seat for those, whatever structure we decide tonight.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's good insight. So it sounds, from what I have heard, and I'll let you all correct me, it sounds as if there is a good body of folks who want to vote tonight. And so let's talk a little bit about what the voting of tonight will look like, because that means we need to put a motion on the floor. And anybody can put a motion on the floor. And I'm going to put in the chat the language you would use. Maybe we've got some other sage wisdom coming. Come on, Angela, what you got?
Thanks. I was just going to make a motion.
Make your motion and teach us a wise one.
I would move that we have a co-chair and a vice chair, or a chair and a vice chair, as the structure for the CBRC for this year. And I believe I would need a second.
Yes, you will. And I will say, if you were going to second that, it would be raising your hand and saying, I second the motion, and repeating what you heard Angela say. And we can read that back to you. But they put a motion on the floor to select the chair and vice chair as a structure for the CBRC committee. All right, I see a second potentially coming.
Yeah, I'll second. And I also, while I'm seconding, will just say I would, as we go along here, because I know we can't really have a free-flowing conversation. It's set up like I would like to encourage anyone who disagrees with the emerging consensus. I would love to actively invite someone to make the case against. But I'll second Angela's motion.
Thank you, Andy. Adriel?
So I don't know how to, I think I would like to amend the motion. So I don't know. I apologize. I don't know all of the ins and outs of the Robert's rules.
Okay.
But I thought we needed to also have a motion to vote first and then have the motion to what the structure would be. Is that not the case?
You all are already a committee and there's already a quorum present, so I don't think you might need to make a motion to vote.
Okay.
It would just be making your motion. And if there's a motion on the floor, I believe I move to amend the motion by is an appropriate phrase.
Okay.
But we are learning in this space, so we're going to be gracious with one another, and we don't know who Robert is, and he has rules, but we are going to figure out how we move through this with some grace tonight. I'm going to bring Angela back in, who might have a little bit more wisdom here for the group.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I use Robert's rules as part of my day job a lot.
Okay.
So if you wanted to make an amendment, you can move to amend the motion and say how you want the motion to sound. And then we would go into debate about just that amendment. And if we all say, yeah, we like that new language, then we go back to the debate about the motion as a whole as amended. But I'm also willing, if folks say, actually, we want something different, to withdraw my motion so you can just make a clean new motion and we don't have to go through the back and forth and zooming in and out. So I'm
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. So I would like to amend the motion to include co-chairs and a vice chair. While I understand Andy's thought around too many cooks in the kitchen, I think 3 cooks would be sufficient with the body of work, considering that these will be new chairs instead of former chairs. And so
that's good.
That is my recommendation for amendment, I guess. Thank you.
I would like to withdraw my motion if Adrian would like to make a new motion.
Okay. Adriel, will you where'd you go? You went back on mute too fast. Okay. Adriel, would you like to make a motion?
I would. I motion that we vote for co-chairs and a vice chair.
Do we have a second?
This is Angela Bonilla, and I will second.
Awesome. Shane, let's open it for discussion. So now if you're raising your hands, you are opening up for discussion around the motion that is on the floor, which is the motion to select 2 co-chairs and a vice chair for the CBRC structure this year. I'm going to go to Shane, Karanja, and then Aaron.
All right. Yeah, I was raising my hand to second the motion, so I am in
Oh.
support of it. That's all.
Okay, well, I hope you're having a good night.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We'll go to Karanja and then Aaron.
Yeah, I would like to raise a question to the group. What do you think about a co-chairs and vice chairs? So 2 chairs and 2 vice chairs. So a total of 4 people. And the reason why I'm bringing that up for discussion is because of the experience I had being on this committee before. It is a lot of work, and the way we divided up the work was amazing. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to open that up.
Okay, thank you for that, Karanja. I'm going to keep you off mute if there's something. Oh, you already went back. Okay, y'all are quick on the draw. Aaron, Adriel, and then Andy.
Okay. My primary concern with this, so there's nothing to stop just members at large from also participating in the writing. My concern is that if you don't have a skipper, there's no way to really direct the boat. So we can get into loggerheads where the co-chairs, like, how do we make a decision if there's 2 co-chairs? That would be my main thing. So the last round we had kind of a directional control. My writing was completely overwritten and I was fine with it. Like somebody's got to be able to pull the whole thing into kind of a cohesive document at the end of the day. So that would be my one thing. I think having more bodies is great. More hands makes for lighter work, but also we need some sort of directional control. And it has to live with somebody.
Thank you for that. Adriel and then Andy.
I would say that that could be, in my mind, rectified by establishing which chair is responsible for which thing. And I think to Karanja's point, I'm happy to rescind my oh my God, I can't think of the word. Sorry, it's been a long day. My motion, thank you. And allow Karanja to set forward a motion for 2 chairs and 2 vice chairs. So I can do that. I rescind my motion, but I think I would like to say to Aaron, I think we could still move forward with 2 able-bodied chairs, and we would just need to establish between those chairs, or those chairs and the vice chair would have to establish who is responsible for what part. And so you could still move forward and then have that added support as well.
So I want to pause really quickly. Thank you very much, Adriel. Don't go back on mute yet. And,
Okay.
And stay put, Karanja, stay put. So I'm learning in real time, y'all. I want to make sure that I got a little bit of feedback, which I deeply appreciate. I think when there is a motion on the floor, that the conversation should be those in opposition and then those for the motion.
Okay.
And then it's speaking to the person who has the motion on the floor or who's chairing the meeting, which is really our presiding officer, but I know I'm standing in that facilitation role in the moment. So if Adriel is rescinding or withdrawing her motion, then we could just keep chatting as normal. I appreciate that green light. We could keep chatting as normal. However, if there is still a motion on the floor, I want to just make sure that if we have some opposition or in favor of, that we kind of move in that cadence so that we're following Robert and his rules. Adriel, are you withdrawing your motion on the floor, or are you keeping the motion on the floor? Is your motion still on the floor?
I'm sorry. I think I'm keeping it on the floor with that context. Yes.
Got it. Okay. So Andy, are you in favor of or in opposition of the stated motion? And the motion on the floor is that we select 2 co-chairs and a vice chair for the current CBRC structure.
Yeah, I'm largely in favor of that. I feel like just based on a little bit of experience on bodies like this one I've seen, I feel like that might hit the sweet spot between both needing enough hands to divide up the work and not getting to such a large leadership body that it gets a little bit hard to figure out clear roles and responsibilities. I'm open to a case that we could make it work with 4. And the one caveat I was going to add was if we haven't asked who's interested in this yet, if we found like 4 people who were like really, really into doing this and we think could work together, I would be happy to design a leadership structure to fit those 4 people, right? I don't think we know whether we're going to have how many people we're going to have that are interested in this, but I think in the abstract, I think I support the co-chairs and vice chair as the right number.
Okay. So the next comment might be from Karanja if he is in opposition of the current motion that is on the floor.
So, I thought we was in discussion, for the motion. That's the
Correct,
reason.
but that
why-
discussion has to be opposition and up or in favor of, so that we don't tip the scale too far in one direction based on everybody just kind of having a free for all.
Oh yeah, that's a new learning for me. I never
Me
knew
too. Me too, friend. And I will confirm it later, but yes,
Is
this is me learning.
okay. Anybody else can confirm that? Is that I never knew that.
Okay, I see Angela shaking. I don't know. And Angela, let me bring you off mute.
Taking yes or no?
Yep. I'm gonna bring her off mute. Sorry, Karanja. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, so once a motion is made, we enter debate. And debate is different from discussion. In debate, we have the person who made the motion gives the speaks for their motion. Then we go to a speaker against, speaker for, speaker against. The only people who get to jump that line are if folks have a question. And when they have a question, that is answered by the chair or the person presiding in the meeting. If they don't have the answer, they can say through the chair to the maker or to this other person who might have that answer. But after a motion is on the floor, we have to be in debate and hold that structure. But if you want to close debate, you can just move to close debate.
And
then
anybody can do that, right?
and that would, anyone can do that. It would need a second and it's not debatable. So you just vote to close debate or not close debate.
And then we would move to a vote. Okay. All right.
All right, that's good learning. Thank you.
I know, Karanja, I'm learning too. I appreciate your grace. Do you have
To Andy's caveat, I think that's very important. To figure out who's interested, and I think that would help us solidify the structure because, like, to his point, it might be you know 4 people that's interested, and we have 4 positions or versus 3 or versus 2. So we're locked in a structure that's only 3, but yet we have 4 or 5 people that's interested, it kind of puts us in that box. So I like his caveat, I like his point. So I don't know if I can make a motion to I don't know.
Not while there's a motion on the floor. So what I
Okay.
think we would do, Karanja, in that case, if we continued with this current motion without a withdrawal or closing of debate and a vote, let's say we did vote. And it turns out that we chose 2 co-chairs and a vice chair as the structure. And then we went into who might be interested. And we came up with 4 people. My question to those who are proficient in Robert's rules would be, wouldn't we then put a motion on the floor to shift the structure? Can we do that? So I don't know if we need to do, but Andy, was that what you were going to say? Let me bring you off mute. Come and tell me better than
My
I-
question was, right, my understanding is like we as a body would have the power to change the structure at any time via Robert's rule. So like I kind of wonder whether if there's general feeling in the abstract that we like the idea of co-chairs and vice chair, we go ahead and approve that. Like we're not like we can come back and change it if we find out that based on once we get to know each other and what our strengths and interests are, there's a structure that fits that better. We can just come back and make a motion and do that. I doubt it would be that contentious or anything. So that would be my humble suggestion.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Okay. I feel like I'm learning.
So I guess we can solidify the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is that was put on the floor by our presiding officer was to move to select 2 chairs and the vice chair for the CBRC structure. We are currently in, not discussion, debate. I've got another hand up. Yeah.
Hi. Unless there are other folks who'd want to enter debate, I want to move to close debate.
Aaron's cracking up. Okay.
So I need a second if anyone is willing.
It's coming.
I will second that motion.
All right. Okay. Let me keep our minutes together. We had a closed debate by Angela and a second by Andy. Is that correct? Okay. All in favor? raising our hands in the chat or in your window. All right, keep them there for just a moment. Don't lower, because we do need to count for meeting's sake. And then Alexandra, can you also double check my counts for me, please?
Yes.
Okay. I've got 11 for and 1 abstaining if Anna, our student rep, is abstaining for a vote, which an abstention is all right to do. So we will have 11 for and 1 abstention. All right. We have passed our first motion to close debate. So now the motion on the floor, which you will vote on next, will be the motion that is currently on the floor, which is to select the 2 co-chairs and a vice chair for the CBRC structure for this current year. Karanja, I'm going to lower your hand real quick and say all in favor. You'll indicate by raising your hand.
Where do we move it?
And keep them there for a second so the staff can count. And I know, thank you so much for those of you who raise your virtual hand, it moves your squares up to the top. So leave them there for us so we can count. Okay. All right, we've got 11 for. Any opposition? Let me lower all of your hands. Are there any opposed? Give us 1 second. Welcome to the world of virtual situations. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. All right. So right now we've passed our first successful motion, which we have elected to or selected a co-chair and a vice chair, co-chairs and vice chair structure. All right. So now we should have a discussion around who might be interested in filling those positions. And I will lean on Angela, who has a little bit more experience with it, a lot more experience with this. Around, we can just have a discussion. Folks can come off mute, indicate that they are interested. And then I will kind of look for some, don't raise your hands all at once. Okay, now y'all. I see Adriel and Angela coming to the both of you, and Karanja coming to you.
I am happy to retain my status as vice chair.
Okay. We have Adriel throwing her hat in the ring as vice chair. Angela.
I was going to throw my hat in the ring for vice chair as well.
Okay.
And am flexible as a co-chair or vice chair, whatever this body would want.
Okay. Karanja?
Yeah, I'm interested in the co-chair position.
Okay. Okay. One of the things that might feel a little tense in the moment is I gotta throw my hat in the ring right here in the moment. Do we, is there any opposition around that? Should we send out a form? We have our committee structure. Is there any conversation around how we might, in a really respectful way, go about this process so that we're not just moving full steam ahead, but we can. I also want to do a bit of a time check. We're at about 6:25, and I know we have some real important information to get to you. Not that this is not deeply important. Just wanted to see what you all might need tonight and how we come to the conclusion of the who. Andy?
I'm going to make a suggestion, and then others because I very much hear the point that others who've been on the committee made about we don't want to delay this too much and we need to get our work done. If we have time to do sort of what I think Nicole, I heard you suggesting, which is give people a minute to process what we've heard tonight about what the time commitment responsibilities of these positions would be, send out some sort of form to express interest. You know what I mean? Be able to come back and vote on that hopefully first thing at the next meeting. That feels like the better route to me, but only if only if that isn't going to put some sort of, I don't want to do that if people feel like that's going to put some sort of roadblock in front of our work. Because I think we can resolve it tonight. I would feel better if people had more than in the moment to think about it. Because it is a time commitment you're signing up for. And I want people to feel good about it. But I'd also like to get like, I want to kind of run an inclusive process if we can. So just a thought.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that, Andy. I agree. Shannon, hi there. Did I unmute you? Hold on. My mouse is everywhere but where it's supposed to be. There we go.
I would second that. I love that suggestion. And if there's a way to include, if people want to add their knowledge, skills, or experiences so
Okay.
that we can get to know each other better and have context for then as committee members, for those not in those roles, how we can best support
Okay.
and get after the work so that we're all contributing to that in what's ahead. That's my thought.
Okay. Alexandra, I'm going to come to you next for a little bit of guidance. It sounds like they need a form and some time to synthesize and for folks to put their hat in the ring, but also kind of share a little bit about their why. And maybe we can use a Google form to do that and then elect who those folks are in our March 31st meeting so we don't gain or lose any runway. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that is an option. It's not an option that I've seen us do before, but I think we could support that, and then asynchronously people could access the information. I'll just share what we've done in prior cycles is have people share about their approach or their vision or priorities in the role. So usually in a CBRC meeting, we'll have people share their interest and then share about their approach, and that supported the selection.
Awesome. Alexandra, do you know, and Karanja, I'm coming to you next. I just have a follow-up question about that. If there is an option for us to vote electronically, and I don't know if that's something the finance team has ever encountered before, especially in the years of COVID. I just wonder.
Outside of a public meeting.
Okay, so that vote needs to maintain in this space.
Typically, I mean, I haven't seen a vote happen electronically, and our committee business happens in the public space. So I just haven't seen us support that.
I knew that question came to me in the chat. I had a feeling that question was going to come up. So I'm glad you have some clarification on that. Karanja, did you have a follow-up question or comment?
Yeah. I'm open to any process. The reason why I put my name in a hat because from experience, we always had somebody who had experience that was on the committee become the chair because they have the experience. So that was the reason why I put my name in the hat. Is because this is my third term. I don't know what is that, Alexander, what is fourth? So I
So you're
kind
the
of know
OG.
the ropes. So that was the reason why I put my name to the hat. But if you guys want to prolong the process, I'm all for that. It's all good.
Well, I appreciate it. I think we do probably need to take a little bit of some consensus around what Andy offered. Was it Andy that you offered yes, let me bring you back in. Go ahead, yeah. And then Shane, coming right to you, dear.
And I will say my other, so one, I would love to hear if anyone wants to push that we should just resolve this tonight because I bet we can. And two, I think we probably all want to hear about some of the other items that were on the agenda tonight. So just as a practical matter, I was like, is there a way we can make sure that we hear about because I know there's some serious stuff happening, but
yeah.
Okay, Shane, did you have something similar you wanted to share? Thank you, Andy, for that.
Yeah, my thought is so far we've had 3 people say they're interested in holding these roles. 1 is a co-chair, 2 as vice chair, but I think, Angela, you maybe said you're open to co-chair potentially. So just maybe. So just curious if others within the group actually have interest, or if they think having time to think about it, they might have interest in that. Because I think if we've really found 3 people that want to do this, I don't know if there's benefit in us waiting 3 weeks.
I see a thumbs up from Shannon, like, let's get her done. If there's anyone, you can privately chat me and let me know. We can come back to this at the very end if we need to. But there's a proposition, not a motion on the floor, but just a proposition for us to go ahead and handle it tonight. But if you think you need a little bit more time, please ping me on that, on the private space, or let me know, raise your hand. I see Alexandra coming. Karanja, I'm gonna lower your hand, but I'll keep you right where you are, dear. Okay, Alexandra?
Just wanted to, it's an observation with the structure that's been proposed is that if there was a desire to have additional leadership folks join at another time, two co-chairs and a vice chair, we could then open again for this same discussion if additional people wanted to join. For example, if people were not here or if they needed more time to think about it, we could revisit this at our next meeting
That's great.
while committing to the three other individuals.
That's a beautiful permission there. So it sounds like we could entertain a motion, right? Because we would have to make a motion to appoint or vote to elect a person in a particular position. So let's handle that vice chair. I will entertain a motion if we have one. You would have to come off mute to make your motions, but. If there is not a motion that anyone's willing to make, Andy coming in to save the day.
Well, maybe. Adriel, do you have any interest in co-chair versus vice chair? Or is that a hard no from you?
I am comfortable supporting. I think I would be in a learning space with whomever else would be a chair as well, because this would be my first time being a full chair and taking on the full responsibility. So I don't have a hard yes to either. I'm going to be wherever I'm needed. And so, yeah.
Okay. I'm asking, and I'll be a little vulnerable saying this. I worry about the optics of Angela in her current position, which I know is not going to be her position all the way through this process as PAT president, being like one of the chairs of this committee. I could support for vice chair. I
Okay.
do worry a little bit about just sending the right signal about the independence of this body.
That's fair. And so if I need to shift, I'm happy to do that, because I think the three of us plus anyone else who's interested later, should there be anyone interested, I think we can be a strong cohort. So yes, I will shift sorry, I have two dogs that are not being kind to each other. I am open to being co-chair as well. So I would say yes to co-chair if Angela is committed to being vice chair, and if we can move this thing forward with that being the proposal for today, I'm happy to make that adjustment.
Yeah, I feel great about that, and I would move to appoint Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as co-chairs to the CBRC for this year. And I would need a second.
I second that.
Sorry, I don't know how I got muted, and that was a shoot. That was not another word there. I have a motion on the floor to appoint Adriel and Karanja as. Angela, will you restate your motion so I can write it down?
Yes, I move to appoint Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as co-chairs for the CBRC for this year. And Adriel seconded.
Thank you.
And I can speak to my motion.
Please speak to your motion.
I appreciate folks who have been doing this work, stepping up and being willing to do the co-chair role. I also really appreciate the folks who have done this work, being willing to step back and allow other people to lead. I think this is a great way for us to start this work. So I hope folks will vote in favor of Karanja and Adriel being our co-chairs.
Any debate?
I have a question, maybe not a debate.
Sure,
Do we need to state who would be the vice chair in that motion, or do we just move forward with co-chairs and understand that the vice chair is?
I think, Angela, we can put another motion on the floor to elect the vice chair.
Okay.
So let's manage
Can
the motion. Oh,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Can I recommend that we have two vice chairs, that maybe Andy can possibly be the vice chair along with Angela?
Okay, but wait. So right now, the motion that's on the floor is the motion to appoint Adriel and Karanja as co-chairs for CBRC for
Okay.
this year. I think we have to manage that motion first, and then after we manage that motion, you can put another motion on the floor.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that lead in, Andy. All right, so we currently have a motion on the floor and we're in debate. So if you are in opposition of the motion that is currently on the floor, which is to appoint Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as co-chairs for the CBRC committee, please raise your hand and feel free to discuss. Aaron?
Oh, yeah, I thought we were voting. No.
Oh, you thought we were voting? No.
Yeah, I'm good on it.
Okay, we do have someone, one of our student reps, Serena. I'm gonna come to you next.
I'm not in opposition. I just had a question. I was wondering if the two people who were in the motion would just give like a brief introduction about themselves, because sorry, I'm not very familiar with everyone who's in this group.
Thank you. Like out of the listen, we appreciate that lead in. Thank you for that. Adriel and Karanja. Karanja, I know you've kind of already kind of shared a little bit, but maybe you all could share a little bit more about who you are and what you do and what experience you have.
Hi, sure. If you don't mind, Karanja, I will. My name is Adriel Person. I'm a parent of a PPS student elementary this year. I have served on a couple of different PPS youth-centered committees, Southeast Guiding Coalition, and currently Racial Equity and Social Justice Advisory Council. I am in my first term on the CBRC, so I think I'll be finishing out within the next year or so, and determining whether or not I will apply again. I was the vice chair last year, albeit we had an amazing chair who was very engaged and experienced. And so I am looking to fill those shoes, but also learn and figure out what we can do to make this even a better process than it's been in the past. So and I grew up in Portland and went to PPS schools from elementary through high school. Yeah, so I'm invested in the process and am a product of the system. I currently work at WSI as a manager of the youth programs.
Awesome. Thank you, Adriel. Karanja, coming to you with some lead in about who you are and what experience you might have.
Yeah, totally. Karanja Cruz, born and raised Portland, Oregon, Northeast to be exact. Portland Public School product. Went to Boise, Harriet Tubman, Benton High School. Yeah, and I'm an educator by trade. Taught, I believe, 13 years, 6 years in the Beaverton School District, 5th grade, and I taught 6 years, 7 years in Portland Public. I'm currently a parent in Portland Public, high school and elementary, and yeah.
And what is Teaching with Purpose? I don't know, your name is Teaching with Purpose on here, so just
Yeah, thank you for that. Teaching with Purpose is my organization that I started when I retired from teaching. So I do Teaching with Purpose full time. It's a teacher conference, annual teacher conference that I do in October, and yeah, so that's pretty much what I do.
Thank you, Karanja. Thank you, Serena, for that beautiful question. Any other conversations for debate around the current motion that is on the floor, which is to elect our co-chairs, to appoint Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as co-chairs for our CBRC structure this year? So if there are no more discussion, should we move to a vote? Right. All those in favor of the motion on the floor to appoint Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as co-chairs for the CBRC this year, please indicate by raising your hand in the reactions. There we go.
Awesome. Okay, hold them there for just a moment so we can do a count. All right, we've got 12 in favor. Let me get the hands lowered. Any opposed? Thank you for lowering your hands, y'all. Y'all are so much help. Any opposition, any opposed? Any abstentions? Then our motion passes. We have appointed Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as our co-chairs for the CBRC committee this year. Woo! All right. Are there any other motions anyone else would like to entertain tonight? Like for a vice chair? We've got someone. Awesome. We're going to need a second in a moment.
I would like to move that Angela Bahia, I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong, Bonilla, be selected as vice chair, yes.
So the motion on the floor is to appoint Angela Bonilla as our vice chair of the CBRC committee this year. Do I have a second? Shane, are you our Shane? Shoot, that was me, Shane. Too quick on the draw there, buddy. That was my fault.
Am I muted? There we go. Yeah, I will second the motion to appoint Angela as the vice chair.
Thank you very much. Any debate? Okay. Angela, do you want to share a little bit about what makes you brilliant?
Whoa. Thank you. I have been a education assistant as well as a teacher in Portland Public Schools since the 2014-2015 school year. I love teaching. It is my dream job. Being president of the union, I always tell folks, was a detour. I really appreciate building systems so that we can better engage in the work that we have to engage in. So I love a good process and really try to think through how we can ensure that we're not just listening to the loudest voices, but to all voices. So hopefully y'all will want me to be your vice chair.
All right. Any debate? Seeing none, I'm going to ask all those in favor of the motion on the floor to appoint Angela Bonilla as our vice chair for CBRC this year, indicate by raising your hand. And leave them there for just a moment. Okay. Any hold on, let me lower your hands. Thank you for your help, y'all. You are the best, honestly. Any opposed for the current motion on the floor, which is to appoint Angela Bonilla as our vice chair for CBRC this year? Any abstentions? It looks like I have two abstentions because I haven't seen a vote from two of our members on the space. So I'm just going to put them as abstentions, but the motion carries so that we have appointed Adriel Person and Karanja Cruz as our co-chairs and Angela Bonilla as our vice chair. Well, I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your support and your grace in walking us through those Robert's Rules of Order. I promise we will do better at learning that process a little bit more deeply so that we can get us through some of our business in a more timely manner. With that, I'm going to shift to our finance team who has some important updates for you tonight. Finance team.
All right, making my way to the mute button. Tammy Booth again, Budget Director. I just wanted to give you, as the CBRC, a preview of something that's coming up at our upcoming board meeting. And that is a budget hold'em activity that's going to be introduced. That'll be March 10th. And then you'll see a lot of communications coming out to the community around this activity. It's an interactive card deck in which there are choices or trade-offs to be made. And it's used really as a tool to help our community and really anyone understand that any investment that we are doing, that it's going to require some sort of trade-off or alternate choice as long as we live in a resource-constrained environment, which is kind of where we're at. And so a couple key things is the link is now available to interact with, and the introduction to this is going to provide data and feedback that then this body and the board will be able to review as part of the end of March work session. And so as communicators in your communities, as this goes out, I would just ask that feel free to share this out as well. The options that are presented in this deck, and I think this is really a critical point to make, are not all of the choices that the district is facing as viable options, but they're kind of a sampling to really wrap your heads around recognizing that there's ways to invest and things we would need to have trade-offs for. And so the budget gap we're looking at closing in that current year is is 6%. That's when it's been shared out with that $55 million gap. And so just recognizing that the proportionality of these impacts, when you see that negative 1.3% or the 0.1% increase on the individual cards. And as you're interacting, you'll be able to move these cards down to yes, maybe, or no to try and build out kind of your hand to balance the budget with the reduction. And when you click on the why question, you'll be able to dig deeper into some of the explanation. And again, this is a preview. These are drafts, and you'll see the final kind of community facing. But you can interact with this today and provide feedback through this tool. And that's what you'll see at the end. So thank you, Nicole, for dropping the link. And we'll use this kind of for a later time. And then I'm going to hand it off to Michelle, who can introduce the budget update.
Thank you for that, Tammy. And thank you everyone for your
question from Andy. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'll stop.
Sorry, it's really quick because I've seen this tool before. It's very cool, and it just is this like a version that's actually based on PPS numbers, or is it just sort of general? Okay.
It is.
Cool.
So
Very cool.
we've been working directly with ERS to develop what that would be as a % of our budget based on our numbers.
Nice. Thank you.
All right, Miss Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Tammy. Really appreciate you. Tammy has really been working diligently for the last couple months, getting that tool for the community for just education and awareness about how much certain things cost in terms of our overall operating budget. And so I do think it's going to be critical, and I hope that you encourage people to use it. You guys get the first peek. So pretty exciting. Congratulations, Tammy. I know that was a lot of work. I would like to give a budget update on the current year. Some of you may already be aware, we entered into this year with our budget in a bit of a fragile state as we had depleted any surplus in our ending fund balance that had been used in prior years. All of those pandemic relief funds have been exhausted, and we started when we adopted this budget, we knew it was fragile. We shared that with the community. And as we have gone from our budget plan that was adopted in May, maybe June last year, we had a very rigorous budget season last year, and it's all recorded if you want to revisit that. We have determined some challenges in our current year. And so we just want to highlight that. We brought it forward to the community at the last board meeting. We have really a big focus on shielding the schools as much as possible from the impact of this year's budget gap. And that was also the position we took as we adopted this budget. So for those of you that maybe weren't tracking when we were developing the budget, we had already had early indication of some challenges and the shortfall ahead for 26-27. So there was a real focus on being able to maintain services as much as possible on top of reductions. So if all of the information is online, if there's an interest, I can bring forward some of that history if it would help this committee's understanding. But it's important that we recognize we're sharing this information based on the most current data we have to date about our finances, and we are sharing it everywhere. So really appreciate your partnership and your questions, because if they're coming up for you, they're likely coming up from everyone, for everyone. So as we came into this year, we had, as part of our operational budget, included the use of $23 million of a reserve fund that had been created and set aside just to offset the impact of an increase in PERS rates, which does happen, and it had happened for this biennium. We were not, as a team, aware of the level of that increase until fall of 2024. So we had awareness of that as we developed this budget, and that's why we decided to access those reserve funds. Unfortunately, we did need to access all of those funds, and there will be no funds remaining going forward. One of the practices that was in place and we adopted for 25-26 was counting savings from positions that were vacant throughout the year. And what we're realizing in this current environment is we're not seeing the same level of vacancy savings that we've seen in the past. And so that has created a budget hole. We have higher transportation and maintenance costs than what were budgeted for. And that would include $2.5 million for 7 emergency facility declarations that have happened. And this information is current through December. So we have another month coming up that we'll be able to include and update the forecast further. But this is all based on activity through the end of December. We do have some unanticipated costs due to federal litigation. We don't know what the value of that at this time, but I'm sure many of you have seen in the news that we're a little bit of a lightning rod right now in terms of attention and federal level lawsuits. So we're kind of highly concerned about that. And then we had some services that were restored coming into this year without an offset. So we for example, when we were balancing the 25-26 budget, we greatly reduced the amount of what we call set aside FTE, which is a little bank that we hold back during staffing in the spring so that we can address student service issues as those students come to us in the fall. And so as situations arose, we continued to add back FTE that was formerly set aside, where in this year's budget, it is simply an add without an offset. One of the other challenges that have come up this year is we have a historical trend, and that's what, of course, what we use to base our future projections on and information. But at the time of our adopting the budget, we were unaware that our local option levy would not be yielding what we anticipated in terms of revenue based on past experience. It would continue to grow a little bit every year as assessed values grew. But as we lost real property value in our downtown Portland area, again, if you've seen in the news, Big Pink sold for way under what it had been assessed value for. So those situations continue to come up, and we anticipate that local option levy will be at a minimum, it will be flat for the next 3 to 5 years based on the experience we had this year, which was our revenue came in at over $5 million less than what we had counted on in our budget. Are there any questions? That's a lot. This is actually an entire presentation on one slide. So I would encourage you to maybe go back and view the video where this information was shared with the school board last week, and it just fast forward to about 9 o'clock. There were a lot of other things that happened before that, but if this is your focus, I would encourage you to fast forward to that because we had a very open dialogue with the board about our current situation. I'm going to pause.
I'm not sure what that was, but it sounds like it's gone.
I see that Renard is waiting to enter. I know that he's going to be here for questions. Dr. Adams. All
Dr.
right.
Adams is here.
Okay. I'm
But
going
I
to
feel like-
continue.
yeah, sorry about that glitch, Miss Michelle, but carry on.
That's okay. Did I bump out for a minute?
It doesn't look like it. I think there might have just been a bit of a technical glitch as Dr. Adams popped in to the meeting, and perhaps the YouTube interplay at what's happening on the finance YouTube, I think somehow had a bit of a glitch, but I think we're good.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. So the mitigation plan that we've developed so far, I think even last spring when at this time when we anticipated there would be challenges for 25, 26 and beyond, we implemented a spending freeze, kind of increased controls and higher review of spending in the system. And then just as school started up in the fall, we issued another statement and memo that was more kind of standardized around spending controls, kind of get us out of that spending freeze and into just great stewardship of funds. And now we are moving back into that higher level of control. We've added a few areas like limitations on discretionary use of substitute and overtime, where maybe situationally there were automatic situations where that was allowed, and we're asking our budget holders to kind of, hey, is this truly required, or is it something that's a little bit more discretionary, and can we dial that down to save some dollars? We continue to conduct operational expenditure reviews, so central department by central department, really those kind of more global services across all of our schools, but being very, very specific about the services that they're providing, how they're providing them for efficiency. Every department lead has been asked to review that carefully. We're open to strategies. This committee would be an excellent place if there are suggestions. We already have the Budget Hold'em, kind of that evaluation tool, which is going to gather some data and inform our proposed budget as well. But if you have things that you're seeing, and I know some of you have already made suggestions, so thank you. And then we canceled our March 2nd CSI-TSI Professional Development Day, and that was a very late decision, but it did save a lot of dollars. And so I would like to offer my apologies to anyone here tonight that may have impacted. You can see our last bullet there, current year-end projections. Again, that's based on what we know through December. And it was really informed by closing the prior fiscal year. So we were able to determine that there weren't any additional surplus dollars available to support the current year above that 5% that the board had targeted. And then as we closed out the second quarter of both income and expenditure revenue, that really gives us some pretty solid footing for projecting towards the end of the year. November and December are pretty critical because that's when our local revenues are received. And so with that, we were able to validate some of the things that we needed to know in order to share this level of variance. So I think big picture, you know, when you look at the budget, our size, the variance is 2.5%. So if you think of that in terms of your own household, that doesn't sound like a big deal. But we were really running a pretty inflexible budget as a district, and over the course of the year, that comes to $22.5 million gap. So I think it's important to state that our leadership is really working towards closing a $12.5 million gap with savings in areas that we think at a high level. This has happened pretty quickly. So I imagine that number is a little bit soft right now. I just want to share with you guys as we move from a plan to actuals. Those numbers are always different. So I just want to lay that out now. And we're looking at and still a $10 million gap for the current year. And I know your work is focused ahead on next year, but it's also very important to recognize how challenging it is to navigate on kind of the thin line that we have planned for this current year as we're planning ahead.
So Michelle, it looks like we have a few questions. And so we'll
Okay.
start with, if that's all right to manage at this
Sure.
time.
Yeah,
We've got
I'll do
Andy
my best.
Karanja coming to you next.
Great.
Thanks, Chris, Michelle. And I watched your board presentation too, and that was also really helpful. And I'm looking forward to to actually doing the PERS update. I was looking forward to that
I
too.
know, PERS, right? Oh,
Yeah,
it's coming.
PERS nerds. I guess my question is kind of piggybacking on what you just said, which is like looking ahead, is anything that led to this, are you expecting to, sorry, are any things that led to this variance, do you expect that to lead to any changing of assumptions that have gone into the preliminary budget for next year? And I'm particularly interested in sort of like, so less vacancy savings than projected. I know that next year's budget already is kind of contingent on lots fewer FTEs. And then the local option levy, like, do we feel like we have a handle on, I know you can't predict the future with, the real estate market, but like, how confident do we feel about assumptions on local
Yeah.
revenue that are built into the budget so far?
I super appreciate the question. We did have the Multnomah County economists come and share information about the fall tax rolls. I want to say that was in November, and I'll look to my team to set me right or get that information correct. So that was Jeff Renfro. That would be an excellent gap filler in terms of understanding of what the outlook is. He shared with me kind of on the side that we could anticipate the local option levy to stay flat for the next 3 to 5 years based on both current state of loss of real property value, but also there is a really full pipeline of other property owners trying to get reassessed right now. So that's what I can share right today. So we definitely aren't anticipating growth there, while we know our costs are going to continue to rise. And we're trying to determine today, we've anticipated a $50 million gap for next year. Our experience today is likely going to impact that to the amount I can't really share right now, but I do anticipate there will be some overflow. And that's to be determined, and we'll share more information as soon as we have it. We don't want to share too conservative estimates because that would result in lower service levels for students unnecessarily. So that's why it's important that we wait till we have the most important information. Again, I just really, really appreciate your questions.
Thank you so much, Chief Morrison. Karanja, did you still have a question? Let me know if you do by raising your hand. There we go. All right. One last question, Chief Morrison.
Sure.
All right, there we go on mute. Thank you for that. I guess you kind of answered it towards the end. For education purposes, you had mentioned that we're at a current $10 million shortfall for this current budget cycle
Yeah,
right
I
now.
think, yeah, So we surfaced this to the superintendent and the cabinet, and that's coming out of the finance team. And those leaders came together and looked at their purview of their work and identified $12 million worth of changes that they could make within their central office departments, primarily to lower costs between now and the end of the year. So that's where we have that identified as a potential closing. A lot of those great ideas may or may not play out depending on what we need to serve students. So I'm being super transparent right now and hoping that you guys understand that this is likely to shift a little bit as we move through time and through the process.
Will those ideas be shared for us to review and evaluate? Is one question. And then the other question would be, with this particular shortfall, what is that going to look like for next year? Are we pulling from reserves for this particular year? And will those reserves kind of be pretty much taken out of and then going into the next fiscal year? So I'm just trying to get some more like clarity and understanding for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. At the 24-25 year, we used a lot of any additional grant funds or pockets of funds that we could find to just land on that 5% fund balance target, just in order to start 25-26, where we determined was the school board minimum of 5%, which is roughly 1 month of operations for PPS. So I think, moving into the future, we will have exhausted all of the $23 million in that PERS reserve fund that was dedicated for that purpose. And so that is in part included in that $50 million because it's a one-time revenue. So it creates that hole. And I don't anticipate, and I know Director Sullivan's here on the screen as well, and I'm not going to put her on the spot, but I haven't heard any interest from the school board in dipping below that 5% fund balance for the general fund. And I wouldn't recommend that. That's a very thin place to be for an operation this size. Did I answer your questions?
Kind of, but it's okay. We can. I think we just have to go more into the weeds, and we don't have that time right now. But that's that's later. I have some follow-up, but later.
Absolutely. Please send your questions and know that we are planning another current year budget update to the board on the 10th.
All right.
So watching those as they come out too will be really important. So you guys can be sense makers.
All right.
Thank you so much for that, Chief Morrison. I just want to also, before we come to you, Shane, see if Director Sullivan had anything to offer or add, but she might not. Okay, so just wanted to, yes, hold on, here we come. One moment, I know I got you.
I can't get off.
Oh my goodness, you're back. Hold on, there we go, let's try it again. We're doing great.
Oh, there. Okay. Sorry, I was pushing it and pushing it. Nothing happened. Yeah, and I think we cannot go below that 5%. So that is untouchable as far as I know. So we spent down as far as we can.
Okay. Thank you, Director
That
Sullivan.
helped last year, but there's nothing to help with that now. We keep going to the state and asking for more, and they have a very deaf ear on that. They don't want to give us from that education fund that they have $1 billion in. I know Angela knows about that too, and it's just really frustrating. So this committee is going to have a really hard time. I'm sorry, but it's really a difficult year. So thank you for being on the committee. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Shane, did you still have your question? Please.
Thanks. Chief Morrison, thanks for this really helpful explanation. Just one clarifying question on the unanticipated cost for the federal lawsuits. Is that just been to defend those lawsuits, like legal fees, or are we setting aside reserves for potential settlement or any kind of resulting, payment we have to make.
Yeah, I'm not going to venture too far into that because we have senior legal counsel and a team that have been tending to that work. I do know that they do have a budget for outside consultation, and they are using that to engage with these situations right now. And that's not necessarily a place where we're currently over in our budget, but it's early in the year. And in terms of, settlement of those lawsuits, if they don't lie in our favor, it will likely not come in a giant lump sum payout. It will come in some type of directive as stop doing or start doing something. So we will need resources to address those determinations when they become final. So I think it's an increased area of risk that we haven't had before. And so we name that as, in full disclosure, we had to name it as we recently put our capital projects bond out to the market to raise revenue for projects. That's a big deal in terms of our financial outlook potentially.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Chief Morrison, it sounds like we've kind of exhausted some of our questions and that we might be able to move into the next slide, which is our Q&A. And I know I also want to welcome our Chief of Accountability and Equity, Dr. Renard Adams, who is here with us tonight, who is here to be able to help answer any lingering questions that you all have. So as we started our time together tonight, we briefly just talked a little bit about how we submit questions. So there is a form, you have access to that form, and this is the process that we are going to follow to ensure that we are tracking all of the questions that you are asking and the answers that we are providing. And that, I believe, was something that you all had requested in that February 4th committee meeting. And so we wanted to make sure that we shared that resource for you tonight. It will be this spreadsheet that will be linked in all of the documents that you'll see online and what Cheryl sends out to you at the head of every committee meeting. And so we're going to make it a little bit larger there for you, but giving you some time, and it doesn't have to also be tonight, but that this is a running document that has all of the questions that we hear throughout this space, but also the questions that you send and submit through our form. And all of those pieces so that you are able to see what is asked, what is answered, and what is pending. Alexandra, any more insight, or Chief Morrison, share more, or Budget Director Tammy Booth, anything else you want to share about the Q&A process?
I just wanted to quickly orient people to the spreadsheet just so that you're able to navigate in here. And if you have any questions about how to use this document and access the information, reach out to us so that we can connect individually and help you through that so you can get all of the information. I wanted to flag that we have two tabs here in the spreadsheet. And so if you look at the bottom left corner, we have one tab that says questions asked in meeting, and that says it again here on this row with a question and a response, and just a little bit about the key. With black text, we've paraphrased information provided in the meeting. And then in blue text, this is supplemental information or information that we didn't have at that time and reached out to other PPS staff or other folks to add this information. So for example, we have something here around an overage increase, and following the meeting, we reached out and collected more information about overages, and that's available for you here. On our other tab here, we have questions that were submitted through form or email outside of the meeting, and that's available for you here as well. And I just wanted to orient folks to the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Chief Morrison?
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra, for being so organized and thoughtful about how we are collecting and sharing information back. I just wanted to just share that Dr. Adams has joined us this evening, and this is an example of our team coming together as a resource as requested. There were some questions that had been submitted that were definitely we needed him and his team support to answer. And so if there's anything coming up for folks, or Dr. Adams, if you'd like to address this group at all, I think I would invite you to do that now.
Oh, thank you, Chief Morrison. Good evening, everyone. I was trying to be here sooner. My dog had other ideas. And he's in the room with me now because he doesn't like when I am on the computer in the office area. I wanted to just quickly come because one of the things I always think about is if I'm having or the team's having to write a lengthy response, perhaps we should come in person and offer some insight into the answer. And so there were 4 particular questions that the team and I were able to address after the last CBRC meeting, after the last time you all were together. And those had to do with counselor allocations, EA allocation versus overage pay, the ODE assessments compared to the MAP costs and the discretionary FTE choices that building administrators have. And so I wanted to just quickly go through those responses, if that's helpful, to have sort of a talking head support that. And I wanted to start with just the counselor allocation. What happened after the last CBRC meeting and before we released staffing is that we adjusted our recommendation. And so that what that means is currently every school, irrespective of their size, has a 1.0 counselor allocation at least. So that was an adjustment from the preliminary recommendations that you saw, which was to staff counselors in 0.2 increments at 350 students to 1 counselor, which would have meant under our previous recommendation that some smaller schools would not have had a full-time counselor. So we heard that feedback and we adjusted that accordingly. And raise a hand if you have a question along the way. The other one that I think is fairly quick is you all had asked a question about add backs, and I interpreted that as what can the discretionary FTE that principals are provided be allocated for, which positions. And so there are 5 positions that discretionary FTE can be used to fund. Those are instructional coaches, interventionists, school climate specialists, counselors, or social workers. And again, those choices were determined by us working with principals. And we worked with first the academic program design work group, which is a selection of 20 principals. And then multiple times we went out to all principals with what the academic work group was thinking about, and we took that feedback in. And so these were the 5 positions that principals identified as being the positions they would like to have discretion around adding additionally to their staffing above and beyond what we centrally allocate. The next question I'd love to share feedback on was the question about an analysis of overage pay compared to educational assistant allocation. And so what I can share is it is less costly to pay teacher overages than it is to hire an EA for every classroom where an overage is triggered by the number of students. And so for the fall, our overage pay has ranged between per educator $225 to $14,000. In the same breath, and an EA, which is 0.44 FTE, costs roughly $66, I believe it is, $1,000. And so if we were to provide an EA for the over 500 educators in the fall who were paid overage pay based on class or caseload side, that would be a cost of $37.4 million.
Looks like Chief Adams is having some technical difficulties, so we'll just give him a moment to buffer. Are there any questions that you all have? We've got through a real lengthy bit of information. We've got about 10 minutes in this space. I see Karanja has a question. Please feel free to indicate that you have any questions or concerns or wonderings as we wait for Dr. Adams. Karanja?
Yeah, my wonderings was TOSAs. Is that in the allocation of the FTE? And was that one of the recommendations from principals to also keep? Or do we have any questions around TOSAs?
Yeah.
If not, I can create one and put it in and submit it.
Will you do that for us too? I know our finance team might need a little time gathering that piece. But I will, Alexandra might have some insight, but I definitely think the both and might be a good idea.
Can I clarify, is the question around for the discretionary FTE, was TOSA available as an option? Is that the question?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Was it around what Dr. Adams was speaking to around the discretionary FTE?
Yes.
Okay, was TOSA available as an option?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I
Dr.
will
Adams, oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry, Alexandra. I thought you were pausing. I apologize.
just to speak to it a little bit, I'm aware that we had in recent years, in the past few years, we had a reorientation of teachers on special assignment or TOSAs towards schools and had those positions filled as instructional coaches. And so it may be that we have made that available, but we term it instructional coach now. And that was when they're oriented towards schools and providing that support for teachers and their professional development at the school site. But if that's not your question, go ahead and let us know and submit it so we can get more information.
Okay, that's good to know. So it was a transition from TOSA, because a lot of the TOSAs did instructional coaching. So you just made it into a position pretty much instead of a teacher on special assignment.
We made it into a direct school allocation versus a centrally managed teacher on special assignment serving a grouping of schools.
Is it still like a union position or?
It's a licensed
Those are
educator.
still PAT positions, yes.
Yes.
We're happy to welcome you back, Dr. Adams. We know you got cut off. There was a question that was on the floor from Karanja and one that Angela Bonilla might have, but we want to give you a chance to maybe finish your sentence as you were buffering there for a second. And maybe again.
There, but I'm happy to be back in space with you all. I believe I had shared what I wanted to share about the overage versus the EA costs.
Dr. Adams, you might want to try turning your camera off and maybe that
the
will help.
last topic I wanted to just share some insights.
Let's just give it just a moment. Okay. In the meantime, and in between time, we're going to go to Angela Bonilla for a question or comment or salient point that they might have.
I just wanted to confirm because my understanding was that that the TOSAs who were moved to schools didn't retain the TOSA title. They became instructional coaches or interventionists. So I just wanted to confirm because it's a different job and it's different pay. So what happened is that there was an elimination of TOSA positions and there was a creation of instructional coach and interventionist positions. And when folks were unassigned, they were placed in those positions. I just wanted to confirm that there wasn't like a secret TOSA pool that was supporting schools that I didn't know about.
No, and I was trying to confirm with Karanja what the question was, and sometimes in our terminology we use those two position titles, and so I wanted to confirm what the question was.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it looks like we lost Dr. Adams virtually for a moment. Are there any other questions or points for the good, or foreheads in the screen that we love to see. Or any, yeah. Hi, sweet peas. Hello, I saw your forehead. We accept foreheads and pets in our Zoom windows. I know it was a lot of information tonight, y'all, so we want to give you a chance to be able to synthesize and process. That's why this really robust document, I too want to shout out Alexandra for, housekeeping in a way that gives us some accountability and some transparency, but it also helps us understand where you're grappling with things, what information we need to bring back to you. As Chief Morrison shared, there's going to be another update at our March 10th meeting. So that might be something to clue into and to listen to. In the board presentation and the committee presentations you've gotten this evening that you received, there was a link for that it has the budget update that Chief Morrison referenced from the previous board meeting, I believe in February. So if you have a moment to put that on in the car or on in your headphones, it would be, I think, worthwhile to listen to. It might bring up and conjure more questions that you might have. In the meantime, maybe we can pull back up, Alexandra, the interactive deck, or any final thoughts or key topics or questions for future meetings that you might want us to bring to you. Yeah. Okay. Well, now look at here. I'm feeling pretty impressed, team. I want to just briefly share a little bit about what you can expect for the rest of this month. So our next, is this me? Is there anyone else on the team who feels really poised? Okay. All right. So our next meeting with the board is our CBRC work session, and that will be on Tuesday, March 31st, within the 6 to 9 p.m. time. That means that it could be, depending on where it is on our board agenda or however things are structured that night, that is the time window that we've allocated. It'll be at the Profit Center here in our boardroom, but there's also a virtual option that you always can take advantage of. I love the background guests in our Zoom windows, everybody. I love it. I'm seeing it. I love the love. I see it. Hello, everybody. And then I'm going to tee it back up for our current presiding officer for last words, sentiments, and our closure. Ms. Adrielle, let me get you off mute.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for everyone's engagement today. This was super inspiring. I want to thank everyone for just being present, because this was a lot of information and it is going to get more robust as we go. That being said, I look forward to seeing you all on the 31st. It is 7:29 p.m. and we are adjourned.
All right. Have an incredible week, everyone. Try to find some love and joy, and we'll see you on the 31st.
Thank you.